The Brooklyn Nets have the deepest roster in the NBA. Now, I'm biased because I don't really watch basketball outside of Nets games, but this definitely isn't a shallow take, and I do have a case to answer. The Nets are a fun basketball team. When people said that the 2018-19 Nets team is most comparable to this roster, it was probably because both teams were bang average. Good enough to compete, not bad enough to tank, and not good enough to contend. But the other reason, which I'm alluding to today, is because of the similarities in their play hard and next man up mentality. Now, I know what you're thinking. Saba, the Indiana Pacers are clear. No other team is a sniff, everywhere you look. Jalen Smith, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, Buddy Hield, the list goes on. Now, before I go off, I actually think the Pacers are one of my more favourite teams, so Pacers supporters, don't go at me. But let's get something straight. This is the most used lineup for the Indiana Pacers. Miles Turner, Bruce Brown, Obi Toppin, Tyrese Halliburton, and Benedict Mathurin. 90 minutes. Swing across to the Nets, and they have 3 different lineups playing 40 to 50 minutes thus far, signifying constant change and instability. Their most used lineup is Spencer Dinwiddie, Ben Simmons, Dorian Finney-Smith, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Thomas. If we compare the Pacers and the Nets with regards to games missed due to injury, here are the results in the early going. Ben Simmons has played 6 of 8, Spencer Dinwiddie has played 7, Cam Johnson and Nic Claxton have played 2 games between them. That's not to mention Cam Thomas, who just injured his left ankle against the Clippers and will now be out for at least 2 weeks. Mikal Bridges, the NBA's Iron Man, is the only starter from opening night to play every game for the Nets, having played his 400th consecutive match on Wednesday night. The Pacers' opening night starting 5 has seen every player play every game, except Tyrese Halliburton, having played 1 less at 7. The Pacers have 7 players who have played every game, whilst the Nets have had 5. The 5 who have played every game for the Nets are Mikal Bridges, and then 4 players that were tucked away on their bench on opening night. All these stats, plus these ones, don't have much credibility in isolation. Though here's my point. The Pacers have always had their preferred starters start, meaning they're able to put out a solid bench on paper and have never actually had to delve deeper to actually put together a rotation. The Nets have needed to put that bench from opening night in their starting 5 regularly to compensate for injury, which has tested their depth and meant the Nets have had to scrape together a bench rotation. And in theory, this should be an issue, right? Wrong. The Nets are 4-4, and despite the instability, they have been in just about every game, and it could have looked a lot better as well. They got undone by a game winner against the Cavs, undone by God, who was on Luka's side for this game winner, and also were pesty against Boston, yet didn't have the tools to get it done. And it's majorly in part to the depth this team has. Lonnie Walker is averaging 16 on the year with 7 consecutive double-digit scoring performances. Dorian Finney-Smith is shooting 44% on 7.5 threes and stepping up as the stretch 5 with his physicality, hustle, and resilience on the glass. And then players on the fringe have also been positives, like Trendon Watford with his facilitation and foul drawing, DayRon Sharpe's offensive rebounding, Dennis Smith's defense, and hopelessness on offense, and even two-way player Armani Brooks, who scored 17, shooting 5 of 6 from 3 in his only game, which helped the Nets in a win against Miami. Since the injuries piled up, these are all the points tallies from each team's bench in all the games that the Nets have played. The Nets have never dipped below 25 bench points. They got 45 bench points, can you believe it, from a bench consisting of Trendon Watford, DayRon Sharpe, Dennis Smith Jr. and Lonnie Walker against the Clippers. All were positive in the plus-minus. These depth players are keeping this team afloat, and not only breaking even, but in some cases outplaying really good oppositions and also outplaying their own starting 5. Against the Clippers, all 4 bench players were in the positive. Against the Bulls, 3 of the 4 bench players were in the positive. Against the Heat, 4 of their 5 were well and truly in the positive. And against the Hornets, all 4 players were not in the negative. The Charlotte game aside, in the Nets wins, on paper, the bench looks a crap ton better in this regard. And this is with the third stringers getting a crack, playing proper minutes that matter, and are getting it done. And this is why I think this is fast becoming my favourite Nets team I've followed. There's no excuses being made. Every player, despite the circumstances, is putting in a proper good shift. And when one set of players falter, the others pick up the slack. Take the win against the Heat, for example. Cam Thomas and Mikal Bridges, our 2 designated primary scorers in 65 minutes, combined for 34 points on 11 of 35 shooting. No worries, because we've got Lonnie Walker and Armani Brooks in 41 minutes, combining for the same amount of points off the bench on 10 of 16 shooting, making 2 more threes and hitting 2 more free throws. Against the Clippers, Cam Thomas got rubbed out halfway through the third, and Mikal Bridges only took 11 shots. Cue Lonnie Walker, who scored 21 off the bench, and DayRon Sharpe, who had a double-double with 4 offensive rebounds. And given we were playing a Clippers team with 4 All-Stars, I don't care how much chemistry they have, this is the game I want to home in on. Not only for the impact that the bench brought, but also because it provoked a reaction by me to make this video. Now, the lineup that, believe it or not, is the difference maker is this lineup. DSJ, Watford, Walker, and Sharpe, the 4 on the bench, some of which have barely seen the floor this year, alongside Bridges. The score when this lineup is formed around about the 150 mark in the third, the Nets are down 2. On this possession, the exploitable matchups are on the weak side with our weaker offensive players. We see shades of that earlier Spencer drive, with Kawhi trailing after the screen and Zoo allowing the cross-court feed to the left corner. With Harden committing to the roller and 2 on Bridges, Watford is open. He can bypass the closeout, he has the height, and he gets the whistle. And Watford is capable of putting the ball on the floor. As a big man who at times is needed to cover for Ben Simmons, this is a great asset to have as the 12th man in your rotation. We see it here as well, where he doesn't seemingly quite have the pace after forcing a turnover, but he's done this a few times in limited playing time, where he fakes the handoff, shifts gears, and catches the defender flat-footed. He bypasses Westbrook later in the game and throws down the hammer, which shows that looks are deceiving. Ignore that it was called an offensive foul. This is our 12th player in the rotation, ladies and gents, and he is only 22 years of age. DayRon Sharpe got a ton of offensive rebounds in a short space of time, with many second chance points. On this occasion, Zoo gets caught out on the perimeter, never getting the switch with man, so despite the miss by Walker, an elite rebounder that DayRon is able to eat this up. With such a lineup that has multiple offensive weak links and is generally undersized, having a big that is capable of recycling a more than likely miss is key. Now, this play really sums up the grit. DSJ hasn't been up to scratch this year, but Harden had an absolute howler of a performance when picked up by DSJ in this one. This is the Nets in a nutshell. Go so far, do a lot of good things, come up short. So here we win the ball, we lose the ball, then we win the ball again, bodies flying all over the joint, and then Zoo is nearly told to pack it up. The audacity for DayRon to even try that dunk attempt is bizarre to me. And then the very next sequence, Smith is hit with a screen, but DayRon comes up to half court, gets the steal. We lose it again after a bit of miscommunication, and then 15 seconds later, on the rebound after an LA miss, we are perhaps too eager for the rebound. I call this the Royce O'Neal disease. Be so good, yet follow it up with being so completely shit. On this possession, you can see Mikal is adamant about trying to break up the Clippers' possession even though he's not directly involved. He's able to switch away from James Harden because Dennis Smith is a pretty good on-ball defender on the perimeter. Pretty good is probably undervaluing Dennis Smith's abilities. There's simple, uncomplicated help on the weak side as the pass hits the roller, and Mikal anticipates the pass out wide. DSJ scores in transition. And then at the 9:06 mark, Mikal goes to the bench for Royce with the Nets up 3. This lineup does not have one starter from game 1, and if it wasn't for Ben's injury in this one where Royce had to start, it would be 5 non-starters in this lineup. A game where 3 of our starters are injured. Lonnie kicks it off with a nice little hop step for 2. He does this again about a minute later, where the spacing provides Lonnie enough of a lane to go downhill and reach banker territory with Zubats on 5 fouls, with Sharpe setting the high pick. I love how we run plays for Lonnie. He's fully grabbing the opportunity with both hands. Later in the game, we see fruit for our labour through DSJ, who harasses Harden, keeps him away from a comfy spot on the court, and then the breakaway on a steal. An excellent score through contact by DayRon, who looked as comfortable in this regard in this match as I've ever seen him. A little bit later, the Clippers are looking for PG. We do well to hold that pass off until about 7 seconds left on the shot clock. Then PG is forced into an ISO on the switch with Watford guarding him, who does superbly in forcing a shot clock violation, despite PG's best efforts to shake him off. Notice Sharpe is so instrumental in our bench offense in this game. He sets a pick again, finds the ball under the basket, not phased by having to put the ball on the floor, and he pivots excellently to scoop it and score around the contest of Zubats. At the 6-minute 15 mark of the final quarter, the Nets had the lead at their largest. The bench entered down 2, and the bench began to exit up 10. This is the box score in that time from when we were down 2. 5 more shots and 7 free throws to 2 on the back of 6 steals, having created 6 turnovers, leading to a grand total of 22 points to the Clippers' 10. They had PG, Kawhi, Harden, and Westbrook all present for stages in this stretch. Look at where our minutes come from. I say no more. Other benches, and in some cases starting units, can't keep up with our bench no matter who's there. It's that simple. And in a game won by 7, it's safe to say the bench had a far greater impact down the stretch in giving us the cushion we needed than the starters did. The starters just needed to not let us down in closing the game out. And you'll notice that in many games to come this season, our bench will be the difference. When other teams are resting their best and experiencing a drop-off in productivity, we're just ramping that up. And so, the Nets will be a competitive team to come up against on a nightly basis. Best believe that will be a nightmare to plan for, because any given player, no matter how far nestled into the back of the bench they are, they hold their own. Take as many starters away as you like, because the Nets will still be just fine. And with Cam Thomas out, although big shoes to fill, I maintain this attitude. Let us know your thoughts. This is my opinion, so let's hear yours. Drop a like and subscribe. I do Nets watch parties, so stay tuned for that if you want a community to watch the games with. Enjoy the rest of the day, and bye for now.